everybody. I'm Zoe, and welcome to Star Wars Geek Girl. And I'm not here with Lizzy today, as usual. Lizzy is still enjoying Japan and having fun after celebration. Instead, I'm here with my dad.
Hello, I am Mike, Zoe's dad.
Where can people find you and your podcast?
Inflatable Falcon most Wednesdays. Anywhere you find this podcast. That's
And
easy.
Karita Cast.
Oh, and CreatorCast, yes. Me and Safi have not done another episode though, so
That's okay. So we're going to be talking about the first 3 episodes of Andor. To record this a little later than I had planned, just mostly because of being busy from celebration and getting back. The next 3 come out tomorrow, but that's okay.
yeah, we're getting it right under the wire.
Right before. So what are your spoiler-free thoughts of the 3 episodes?
I really liked it. I still wish they would have not given us 3 at once, but I really did like them. That's all I can say without spoiling it.
Yeah, for me, I really, really like them. I'm excited for what they mean for the rest of the show. And actually, I had a bit of a different feeling because I wasn't a fan of the 3 episode drops, but seeing how they all fit together, I didn't mind it as much as I thought I would watching them.
Yeah, I didn't mind it as much as it was very difficult to find the time to sit down and watch it. Like I felt like it took me longer to just really watch it.
Yeah, especially because I guess they come out at 9 p.m. for you.
Right.
So it's really late versus it's 6 here, so it's a little bit easier. But yeah, so I guess we can get into spoilers. So we can start with the first episode, which I forgot to look at the title. I never remember episode titles. The first episode was 1 year later. So that's where we had the intro of Cassian on Sinar undercover as a test pilot. He meets this girl Nia who's helping him steal this like prototype ship, and it was really, really funny. The beginning of that episode, I thought.
Yeah, it was weird because compared to season 1 that didn't start with it being very Star Warsy, it started with a TIE fighter.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean,
well, I do think the thing with this episode, the opening of the episode too, was I think people forget, like, I think because it's not what it's known for, it's not the most significant part of it, but I think people forget that the first couple of episodes of Andor, especially the first 2, are really funny. Like on Ferrex in those first couple episodes, you have that scene of like B2 emo like rolling around, he gets peed on by
true.
those
Yeah,
dogs,
yeah.
or he has all the scenes of Cassian being harassed because he keeps borrowing money from people. So you have like Brasa mentions like, I'm not giving you more money, or the Vetch, that big guy that has supposed to stand there when the other guy's trying to get his money from him. And like all the stuff with Cyril, like the guy slurping on his blue noodles, and you have to like spit it out when Cyril, like, oh, this is really, people forget, like they're dark, but they are funny.
Yeah.
And I think because that's not what the show gets known for and how it continues, and people forget that they're really good with the comedy in this show sometimes, in a way that works. And so it's kind of fun to get back into that a little bit to ease us into the new season.
Yeah. Well, in the first one, it did let you catch up with what he was doing. Like because I wasn't sure what they were going to do, like where he was going to be caught up at, because it was right after that big, fight.
Big moment where and he tells Luthen he wants to work with him, so we get to see a little bit of that. It was also kind of fun because I feel like in Star Wars we always have all these pilots who are like, I can fly anything, and they hop into a ship and they take off and they know how to do it right away. And so it's kind of fun to see Cassian hop into this prototype ship and have no idea what any of the controls are.
Yeah, well, he's not really
or
known
how
for
they're
his
set up.
piloting skills either, really.
No, I mean he flies a lot in Rogue One. He flies Ewing a lot.
Yeah, but
he was the pilot in the Aldani arc. That's what he was hired for.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I mean, I just thought the TIE fighter part was good. I thought the girl he met, like, she basically risked her life, which, you know, she's probably going to be sent to,
Mm-hmm.
if she's lucky, she'll be sent to a prison camp.
Yeah, poor Nia.
Which I was surprised they didn't show anything to do with any of the prisoners. Because did you watch the recap episode they put on Disney Plus?
No,
they put like
I
a
didn't.
10-minute recap episode.
Mm-hmm.
And so they showed a lot of those. So I thought maybe there was going to be a little more in this one. Because this one really had, what, 3 stories going?
Yeah. Cassian, and then the Phyrexians, and then
No, 4 stories.
Yeah.
Cassian, the farmer people,
and Mon Mothma the wedding.
And who?
And Mon Mothma in the wedding.
Yeah, but didn't they show the Imperial people too?
Oh yeah, they did with Daedra and Cyril. That's right.
So you had.
Yeah, I don't know if we'll see any more of the prisoners, except we'll probably see Melshi later this season because he's in Rogue One.
Yeah, a lot of times in the previews they kind of remind you of things they need you to see. So they showed a bunch of the prison break stuff, you know. So
it's probably just like a general recap for the show. Also, because I think that was a big part of Cassian's arc, and that made him into a revolutionary a little bit too.
Yeah. But yeah, I liked. I at first I actually wanted to watch it a second time because when he landed in that whole battle between the 2 groups of people, I got somewhat confused. I was like, wait a minute, how are there 2 groups of people? So
yeah, that's a little later. It's episode 2.
That's not in that episode?
3. No, and the first episode he just, they don't start battling.
Oh no, that's right. He just lands. It ends with him being surrounded by whatever.
Yeah, and they're like dragging him off. But yeah, so we have Cassian. Then we have Daedra in a meeting with Krennic and a bunch of other Imperials. It's fun to see Krennic again. I feel like Ben Mendelsohn was, in a good way, hamming it up in this meeting. It was really fun, but also really, really scary because it was, they're talking about the Gormans, which was, because I didn't realize, because I started rewatching the first season, like after these episodes came out. I didn't realize, because we knew from Rebels the Gorman massacre is what got Mon Mothma like to leave the Senate officially. Right. But I've forgotten that they bring up the Gormans a lot in season 1. Like there's this scene where Perrin is having his dinner party. He mentioned inviting all these people, and Mon Mothma starts, freaking out. She's like, "Well, why don't we invite some Gormans? See how they feel about these people." Like that, and I didn't realize it was a thing they brought up so over and over again in season 1. That's been kind of fun. But we see basically like an old timey propaganda video about Gorman, and that was cool too. I like the way they included that, about how they're clothes and they're spiders, but the Empire is working out their way to basically get the Gorman people out of the way so they can get the minerals that they're on top of. And it was like, it was really intense, like this meeting, because they're talking about, the lives of these people, and they're like, they have like this goofy like I forgot what the department name was, but there's like goofy guys that are like, we're gonna create a story. Then you have Daedra talking about essentially what she did a little bit in season 1, just accidentally, about using finding like a rebel group to do something that they can use to justify it and using that as a cover.
Well, she's kind of doing what the Krennic, what she wants to do with Krennic, similar to what I don't know. It feels like Krennic is just getting picked on by everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm curious to see Krennic because when we see him in Rogue One, like he's been in charge of this project for so long, and he's like, especially Tarkin is like really wearing on him, and so it's interesting to see him here where he still has a bit more control. But even so, like we know from like the books that he's like butting heads with Thrawn a lot because Thrawn is fighting him for funding because Thrawn wants funding for his TIE fighters. And he wants funding for the Death Star. So it'll be interesting to see like over the course because the next couple of episodes take place with like a year time jump between each arc, and so it'll be interesting to see like how that sort of his grip kind of slips on the project.
Well, and especially after seeing Revenge of the Sith in the theater, and it ends with Tarkin looking at the building. So Tarkin was at the beginning of it, like so. You know, it's just funny. Like, did Tarkin like say, "Oh, that looks cool," and then did a whole bunch of stuff, and came back and said, "Okay, I'm going to take that over."
Yeah, basically, that's what happens in the books. But I liked those boardroom scenes a lot because it was chilling. And then we have the Phyrexians and their little farming community, and that was also really, I did enjoy when we first kind of got to see like what their kind of normal life is like now post Ferrex. Like they still like they have a portrait of Marva up. They still remember Ferrex, but they're also like kind of ingraining themselves into this community.
Yeah.
They're friends with people. Brasso is together with, I can't remember her name, but that woman. They're together. Will is flirting with that one girl. His mom doesn't like him. And it's like it's a very
and they had that little mobile
they have
home
obviously
thing.
they're still like, yeah, I like their little home.
Yeah, that was good. And that was a good commentary on like now, like there's people that need work, and show them your papers.
And yeah, it was really, people keep saying Andor, keep calling it like, the critics keep calling it like prescient and relevant to our times, and I feel like that's such an understatement over these first couple of episodes, because they were straight up using language like oh, undocumented, illegal, like
not quite as subtle as George Lucas was with his.
Not that George Lucas was particularly subtle either. No. Remember Halle Bertoni from the Clone Wars?
But I thought that was good. I'm losing track of which episodes were which.
I know, because they're all the together. Weddings. We also having a nightmare too. So we have like about the evil crazy scientist guy from season 1.
Well, the wedding thing was that's the hardest thing to watch because I'm not 100% sure what's going on with all of those. Like I went back and rewatched some of season 1, and I'm not 100% sure. Like, yeah, when we get to the last one, I'll ask you what you think.
Yeah. But yeah, I like the wedding scenes. I think it's a testament to the writing of the show that sometimes like Cassian, like in some episode 2, but Cassian would be in a literal gunfight and I would feel just as like scared watching that than watching Mon Mothma in her like in the wedding scene. Like it felt just as intense to me at times. I think that's a testament to the writing that they can make a party feel just as because of what
it feels Godfather-ish.
Feel just as tense. Yes.
Like there's all kinds of stuff going on, and if you miss a second of it, you don't know what you missed.
Because it's this big wedding. I also liked how because they had it, because it's a 3-episode arc, and the wedding is it's a 3-day ceremony because they're like following these Chandrilan traditions. So like each episode was a day. And I like that structure too. But I really like the first episode where everyone's coming in, and I love the shot basically following Mon when she's like at the landing platform, like greeting everybody, and she sees Luthen's ship. She's like, oh, what's he doing here? And she goes over, sees Vel, and it's like this whole thing. I love that really great.
Well, it's funny because it's also like it feels like no one really wants to be there. Like they're all just, kind of going through the motions.
Yeah. I really liked Luthen finding a way to worm himself in, because Mon Mothma definitely wanted him to be there. But he was, giving this big art piece as a gift. Or he was, selling it to this guy who's giving it as a gift. The dad of the husband. But also Luthen was really fun in these episodes. I think some of my favorite moments with him were when he was talking. They were like towards the end of the episode, they're having like everyone's like hanging around and drinking and eating, and Luthen's talking to that one kid, and the kid's like, "Oh yeah, I'm in the Imperial Academy, but we all just got transferred to a new planet." And Luthen's like, "Oh really? What planet?"
Yeah, he's getting a lot of information. So, that's for sure.
Subtle. Yeah. It was really funny. I also liked Vel and Clea's little interaction too. I thought that was very funny. Where, they're working on what their cover would be, and Clea's like, "Oh, we're just surveying the prospects," and Vel just looks her up and down and walks away. That was a funny moment too. So, like I said, I think people forget, because of how heavy Andor gets and how intense it is in later episodes, they forget that this team is really good at comedy too, and introducing with a little bit of levity before things get dark. Because I think that's important. I think the best Star Wars balances being funny with getting dark, and I think it's the darkness feels darker when you see these characters like being a little silly before too. And I think Andor does that very, very well. But yeah, that's basically episode 1. And Cassian goes to this mysterious jungly planet, and he lands. He's supposed to do a little relay race and transfer the ship off, but instead he finds these rebels who were stranded on the planet, and they all start fighting.
Yeah, I'm still not 100% sure why they're all fighting each other.
Well, I think Cassian clocked them pretty well. Is they were stuck there for a little while. They didn't have any food or water, and their normal leader, because they were under the Maya Pei brigade, and Maya Pei had gone off to go try and get them a ship, but she was gone for who knows how long. And since their regular leader was gone, they're all arguing over who's in charge, and they're all hungry and tired and dehydrated, and that's making them cranky.
Yeah,
they're all hangry.
This was a hankry group.
And their leader.
Well, that leads us into the second one. So
yes, the second one was Agrona Tima, which is, I don't know what that means, but it's what they say in the Chandrilan wedding.
Yeah, I do like all the wedding talk and like all those words they're using, that I'm like, that's pretty cool that someone took the time for a television show.
Yeah, they're customs. Yeah, so in episode 2, because we'll kind of do it by arc, it's probably easiest. So with Cassian, so we're just talking about Cassian, and I really liked this section. I know for some people it wasn't their favorite. I really like Cassian's part of these episodes, for a couple reasons. One, I think the issue the Maya Pei Brigade was having was a little, almost like a microcosm of the issues the rebellion's kind of still having at this point, where everyone has the same goal, right? Everyone wants to get off this planet and use this ship to do it, but no one can agree on how to do it and who gets on the ship first and does that. And it's kind of the same thing that we're seeing at this point, like in Rebels with the rebellion, where you have Saw Gerrera and Mon Mothma and her, these two groups who both, their goal is both to take the Empire down, but they have different ideas how to do it, and that causes these clashes.
Plus, they had those monsters in the woods then too,
and there were monsters in the woods too. But so that was interesting. But I also think even outside of that kind of metatextual level, I think it was also really good to see Cassian, because we know, because Cassian Andor in season 1 up to the Narkina 5 arc was very much not a revolutionary, right? He was just the guy that owed everybody money. He got in some trouble, tried to escape, had a string of very, very bad luck, ended up getting thrown in prison. And that's when he starts to see the value in rebellion and coming together. And so it's been great to see. And he has a moment with Nia too, in episode 1, which I liked, where he kind of inspires her as a rebel and helps calm her feels, but he's very, very kind to her. We see that too here in this episode, where he's, he's both being a shit stirrer and a leader.
Well,
because he's sitting on the sidelines, kind of egging him on a little bit, kind of being a little snarky. But he's also, they're all like standing there arguing. He's gonna be like, guys, you need to go get some water. You need to go get some food before the sun goes down. And I thought that was an interesting character moment for him. So far divorced from the, beginning of last season, where he, Luthen and the Aldani rebels are almost begging him to be a revolutionary, especially Nemec, begging him to kind of be with the cause. He just wants the money.
Well, and yeah, he kind of, he was trying to keep himself alive, but he was also he could have easily just killed that one guy and moved on.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I was glad I was like, please don't have. I knew nothing would happen to him, but I was just wanted him to get out of there. So
yeah, the my paper grade did not come off very well. They were it did devolve into, and this gets more in episode 3 too, it devolved into very much childish.
I wonder if he's going to see
it stopped being about.
I wonder if he's going to see any of those rebels again. Because as far as
maybe we'll have to see if they made
they're concerned, he's still an Imperial pilot. Because
I don't know if because he did try to tell them that he was with the rebellion, but he wouldn't say who.
So I'm just curious.
I don't know if
he meets up with some of them again, because that seemed like a bunch of characters to just let go.
Yeah, it's interesting. Because, they said that Maya Pei, who was their leader and the sister of one of the characters, she went off to go get a ship to try and get them help. And she hadn't come back yet. And so it'll be interesting, if she did come back, or, if something happened to her, she left all those guys behind. It'd be interesting. Yeah, the argument devolved into being very childish, where it stopped, originally the argument kind of started as well, I'm in charge. No, I'm in charge. No, I'm in charge. And well, who goes first with Cassian? And do we even need this guy to fly it at all? We can try to figure out how to fly it ourselves. And and it kind of stopped being that and just turned into being very tribal, where they split up somewhat arbitrarily after the one guy shot the one woman because they got into an argument. It became not about who was siding with who for what plan, but just who happened to run what direction. And Cassian's kind of
I think they were thinking how
stuck, because they did kill their pilots, and then Cassian was left as kind of the only.
I also think they were trying to think, how many people can we fit in this ship? That's a pretty roomy TIE fighter compared to.
It was. They could have fit quite a few.
Compared to the normal one that you could barely fit 2 people in, when Zeb and
I mean, Zeb's pretty big.
Yeah.
So that's kind of that arc in episode 2. Then we start to have a problem with the Phyrexians on it's like Mira 1, Mina 1 or something. The farming planet they're on, where the Empire's come in, and they're rotating through, because I guess this farming planet is separated into sectors, and they're in this one sector, and the Empire's going through and kind of randomly checking people's papers, as we're talking about, and they have to figure out how to get around that And so we have this like seems to be kind of the head farmer guy.
I guess
I'm not sure what the structure is in this
he was like
farming
the
world.
farmer, I guess, where they were just repairing, like they were just a worker.
Yeah, they were repairing stuff. They were not farmers, the Phyrexians. But he's like the farmer. I'm not sure like if he owns the land or what his role exactly is. But he's kind of like the head guy. And so he's trying to find him a cover, trying to figure out what to do, and he ends up getting them a document saying they're going to go fix this and like another sector. So it's like the Empire's going to check out this sector, they'll move to the next one, and then the Phyrexians will go to that sector they were just at for an emergency repair, and then come back after the Empire leaves to do their checks. Is kind of the thing. And we get to see a little more of that farm life. I like their communal, it's very much a community-based group where they have their communal tables and everyone kind of hangs out, and they have the kids. Did you see the kid with the little ATST puppet toy in the background? All these, very like, family oriented, which I like that little. I mean, obviously they're working, but I did like their little like life they'd built for themselves.
Then the Imperials also had their cars or their vehicles look like old World War II German troop transports.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they didn't use the rebels troop transports.
No, they looked a lot like I forget the let me see. Hang on a sec. I think I can show you. No one can see it on the. See that?
Oh yeah, like the tank.
The tracked troop.
Yeah, that does look exactly
like troop transport, and then the officers. If I'm not going to look up the officer's car, but here now I got to figure out how to turn this on. There you go. Whoops. The officers will look like an armored officer's car as well. So.
Yeah. And there is this creepy officer trying to abuse his power that kind of harasses Bix.
Yeah, that was
which we'll circle back to that in episode 3, I guess. Yeah. But that was a tough watch for sure. But also, something I think about Andor being prescient. That's something that very much happens and has happened in history. Not generally included in Star Wars, and not something I generally want to include in Star Wars, but I think.
Well, I think
if there's one show that should include it,
I think you have to have all of that to show the Empire is really bad. Like it's bad from the top down. It's bad for different reasons. Like you have all these people. Like if the Empire was just trying to make the place a better place and the people were just doing their jobs, that's slightly different. But it seems like everyone is just trying to grab power wherever they can.
Yeah. And that's something I think we see a little bit in the Mon Mothma arc as well, is just a little bit of power, makes people start to be really entitled. And I think that's what we saw there. I don't want to necessarily, and we'll talk about more on this, I don't necessarily discuss it too much. I think it overtook the conversation about all 3 episodes. And then I think people much more qualified than I am are having much better discussions about it.
Well, that's the nice thing about it is there's the nice thing about the good storytelling is you can get people that know more about certain things and discuss it. And other people can just enjoy it for what it is.
Yeah, and I enjoyed it. I also think I will say is a lot of people were upset about it being included in Star Wars, and to that I would say, for one thing, I would say what 99% of Star Wars is kid friendly, and if some people don't like when I say that Star Wars things have kids in the audience, that is true. I think basically all Star Wars, specifically screen Star Wars, maybe some of the books are not, but on screen Star Wars, there's always going to be, and I'm not talking like 4-year-olds necessarily, but like kids who are 10, 11, 12 can watch any Star Wars. And then I think Andor is obviously the exception show. And so I think it's not like it's inappropriate in Andor. Even so, I think if Andor came out when I was 13, I would
Yeah,
watch
I don't think
it. You know,
I don't think
good,
it's
but
inappropriate if a parent has a discussion with the kids, because nothing was graphic, or you know what I mean. Like there is discussions in this day and age you have to have with children. You know,
yeah,
so
agreed. But I know some people were upset saying Star Wars for kids, and I know Lizzy doesn't like it when I say this, but I usually agree. Star Wars has a strong should always focus
yeah,
on kids. I just think Andor is the show that's made it is much more made for the adult audience
yeah,
than most Star Wars, and not because I think people sometimes when you say something for kids, they're like, oh well, but someone gets their head chopped off. That's not for kids. And to which I say, I don't think mature storytelling and violent storytelling
right.
is the same thing.
Well,
Because I don't think Andor's not for kids because it's more violent. I think Andor isn't as much for kids because I think there are a lot of kids who would find
yeah,
it
well, that's what I'm
boring.
saying. I
Um,
don't know that many adults.
like I don't think it's the violence; it's just the the level of
If
the
they
style
got
of
through
storytelling.
season 1, I don't know why they would all of a sudden decide, "Hey, I think my kids would like season 2."
Yeah,
So,
exactly. Um, yeah, but also like same, and also like I think people are, and and you know this better than me because you are a teacher, but I think people don't give enough kids
right.
enough credit. I think I mean kids can be stupid, but I think kids are also generally when it comes to media, especially much smarter and more
Right.
resilient than people give them
Well,
credit for.
and when I
Um, Strange to get upset about it in
yeah,
that sense.
when I was a kid, you just didn't talk about that stuff. It doesn't mean it didn't go on. Like the
Hmm.
younger generations, I don't know if they're exposed to it more, but they're easier to talk about it with each
Hmm.
other than the generation I had.
Hmm.
So, you know.
Um, and I think because there are a lot of people who said this doesn't belong in like those kind of themes don't belong in Star Wars, but I think you should watch Return of the Jedi again.
Yeah, yeah,
Like it's been there.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, the
they didn't name it like they did here in
yeah,
Andor, but it doesn't mean it wasn't there.
right. Yeah, Jabba Palace scene is, but then the other part was when, so are we still on 2 or are we on 3 now?
I think we haven't talked about the Mothma and Daedra parts of, but two and
Well,
three are so we can jump around.
because that's where I didn't get confused as much as I kept realizing at the wedding she started realizing that certain people that knew certain people knew too much, and she was
Yeah,
gonna
well,
have to deal with that.
I think it was really just Take Homa, which it was so disappointing because I really liked him in season one.
Yeah,
I was hoping there'd be like a fun little affair arc because Mothma's arranged marriage
yeah,
husband sucks so much. But yeah, no, he sucks, and he was. And this is where I talk about like people becoming entitled. Like he had this little bit of power, right? He knew the secret of Mon Mothma's that she didn't let anyone else in on, and he was helping her with the banking stuff. And because he had that little bit of power, and because he said his investments went a little sour thanks to rebel activity. Because he was slightly inconvenienced and had that little bit of power, he became so entitled. He starts asking for more from Mon Mothma for,
yeah.
more
That
money. Um, I don't know if anyone else picked up on this. I thought he was like in a weird way hitting on her a little bit. He talked about his wife leaving him. He's like, I just think
yeah.
you should appreciate me more. I thought that was kind of a weird vibe too. Um, which again, I really liked him in season one. So it was such a bummer that he turned out this way.
Well,
Um,
I thought so. Yeah, I thought
but
the third episode was reminding all three of them what Luthen said, where they were fighting for something they were not going to see.
mhm.
You know, and I felt like every group of people, other than Cyril and his girlfriend, just putting his mom in her place. You
Yeah,
know.
we'll talk about that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think that, and I think what was interesting too is I think Tay Colma was very much, I don't know what I was going to say reminiscent, but I don't know reminiscent of what, but definitely a person who exists in the real world, because he was the one in season 1, that first part he's talking to Mon Mothma, and she wants to get into politics a little bit because she's trying to subtly get him to help her with the rebellion stuff, and he's the one that's like, well, you'll find my politics a little too radical. I don't like the Empire. Like, he's the one talking like that. But now that it's a slight inconvenience to him, he drops it. He wants to, go running.
Yeah.
And that was frustrating but interesting. And this whole time as well, Mon Mothma's dealing with this marriage she's putting her daughter through, which her daughter, by all accounts, wanted back in season 1, but Mon Mothma didn't want to, but she was kind of forced into it for the rebellion. And she's, even though it's something, she's, it's her sacrifice. Luthen talks about sacrifice. It's her sacrifice for the rebellion. She's still like, she has that moment with Leda where she says, like, you don't have to do this. You can say no, you can back out. It will be brave of you. Leda's not having it.
Well, and that's what I think. That's where I think it ended. The last episode, episode 3, ended with all of them realizing that the sacrifices are going to get harder and more permanent.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
I think Cassian realized, like, he didn't have time to grieve because he had to get off the planet,
Mm-hmm.
and
And they had to leave him behind.
Mon Mothma, she realized. I assume that guy's going to just be assassinated.
Well, that's
with
what Cinta's for, You think
Yeah.
in the Aldani arc, they leave Cinta with that family, and you're like, oh, they're dead.
Yeah. So I just
You
assume
know,
that he's going away, and then so that's
and that's, I think that's, Mon Mothma. I think because her rebellion looks different than someone like Cassian's, I think sometimes some people say that she didn't sacrifice or she isn't really in it. And I think
right.
these episodes really proved she is giving up everything. She is,
Well, she's sacrificing
leaving her
almost
daughter
double.
to her
Yeah.
fate. Because I think, something that always struck me in season 1 was she was a character who was essentially alone in her
Yeah.
rebellion in her own home. Luthen and Claire working together in the shop. You have like the Aldani rebels working together. Cassian kind of forms his little rebel group, but Mothma's alone. And she's
Yeah.
surrounded by, frankly, enemies. Her
Right.
husband, her own husband, and her daughter are her enemies in this. I mean, she had Vel, she had her cousin, but she's not around. And the one person she did end up having at the end of the season was Tay Colma. It was her childhood best friend.
Yep.
She got to work with, and now, she has to let him be killed.
Yeah.
While she's also, watching her daughter be doomed to the same fate she was, thanks to their culture, and she just lets it loose a little bit. And it was powerful, but it was, yeah. And I think people write her off unfairly, but I think she, the rebellion needs her. Like, I think Luthen even says yeah, rebellions in season 1, he says rebellions cost money. We need to buy ships and weapons and food, and
Yeah.
she's just sort of like, there's nothing happens without her, frankly. I
Yeah.
don't think people give her that credit necessarily. It was really great to see that part of the arc. And then you talk about the Phyrexians. Yeah, Cassian, he finally, the Maya pay brigade, they end up doing space rock paper scissors to solve their disputes after a while shooting each other. That was pretty funny. The Cassian steals back his TIE fighter and escapes, and goes to pick up Bix and Will and Brasso. And then I'm curious on your take on this, because I didn't interpret it this way, but there were a lot of people who thought that the farmer guy sold them out. But I didn't think he did. I'm curious what your take on it was.
Yeah, there was something there. I almost felt like they had a plan. Look, if they discover us, you act like you sell us out, so you don't get in trouble.
Yeah, well, I don't know if it was a plan, but that's what I thought Brasso was doing for sure.
Yeah,
Mostly because
I
when Brasso's like when they push him on the ground, Brasso and that guy like they give each other a nod. Because I
yeah,
was like, okay. Especially because I was thinking about it afterwards too, and it wouldn't have made sense for that guy to have sold them out because they didn't get caught because of him. Like if they got caught because the papers he gave them were bad, or
right,
like
right,
the Empire showed up to their little house, that would have been one thing. But Brasso was caught because he was in the field looking for Will, because Will had to
right,
say goodbye to his girlfriend.
right,
Like that farmer would have known nothing. He would have no idea that Brasso was in the field there.
right, right.
So I think he's in the clear. But we had
Yeah, I noticed
one.
that. I just thought that either it was an agreement, like, look, I'm gonna make it look so your family doesn't get in trouble too, you know.
Yeah. I don't know if it was an agreement. I think it was just kind of what, because when the first time we meet Brasso, because I've been rewatching the first season, the first time we meet Brasso in season 1 is we meet him and Cassian goes up to him and they create a little cover story because of
Yeah,
Cassian killing
yeah,
his officers. Like, I think it was just who Brasso is the guy
yeah,
who will look out for you. Um,
yeah. I was sorry to see him go.
I know, I loved him. The one, it was when they showed that stormtrooper actually stopping the aim instead of just firing,
Yeah.
you knew it was over.
Yeah, I figured they fired a lot at him. He was going to probably go down.
But it was just because they're all just kind of shooting wildly like stormtroopers usually do. But there's that one, and they stop the
Yeah,
camera on him. He just lifts and he slowly makes a shot. And that's when you knew.
yeah,
But yeah, Bix. Talk about it already. Bix fights off the creepy guy trying to assault her. She did it, as much as intense and scary. Like my heart was like pounding that whole
yeah.
scene. As intense and scary as that was, it was really satisfying to see him just get beat in the head with a hammer.
Well, you know that. So this brings me to my only complaint was you saw her in the trailer that you hadn't seen yet. Like, so they took some of the suspense off because I had a feeling a bunch of people were going to die, and so
Mm-hmm.
but I knew it wasn't going to be her because you see her in the trailer.
Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
true. I think she was gonna die. I was just scared for what could
yeah,
happen to
no, but I
her.
mean, I
Um,
just was worried they were just all going to come in and like blast up the house, and you know what I mean.
oh
So
yeah.
that's
No, she
and Cassian was going to
well,
come.
we know from the trailers Will is gonna hang out with Saw
Yeah,
Gerrera later this season, so
that's what
that'll
I'm
be
saying.
interesting
Like
too.
I'm glad for trailers, but I wish they would believe in their content more sometimes when they make trailers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Um,
But
yeah, but Cassian he finds Brasso
yeah,
first in the field. That was a very sad but very sweet moment.
but
Where he's with him,
that's why I realized
and then
he just realizes he's on the path of knowing he's going to have to make sacrifices because he didn't even take time in the morning.
yeah,
You know?
he. Well, I also thought it was notable too that he kept Brasso and Will
Yeah,
from him. Like he wouldn't let them even
yeah,
look at him. Like he just, you know,
yeah.
um, but he, yeah. So he gets Bix and Will onto the ship, and they fly off.
Will
Um,
causes a lot of problems. He's the one that threw the bomb. He's the one that was running at hiding in the field.
like if he hadn't had to say bye to his girlfriend, then he
He's
could
like
have
the
been very
anti
different.
Forrest Gump of Star Wars. You know, like Forrest Gump was in every good thing. He's the one that, you know, like if he wouldn't
No.
have thrown that firebomb, they wouldn't have had that big riot. If he wouldn't have been out for his
Mm-hmm.
girlfriend, Grosso would have still be alive. He's just
Yeah.
having a rough time.
Not only that, but if Will and Gunnar Brasso still would have been there to help
Right.
Bix
Right.
too.
So
Um, yeah, and then we have them. Cassian talking about Mothma, and there's also I like the bits with Vel and Cinta talking about sacrifice. Vel and Cinta and their relationship, not really working out. And there's still like care there, definitely from Vel, who totally crashes out after she sees Cinta. But even like that look Cinta gives her, like there's still a care there, but it's in season 1, Cinta says that rebellion comes first. We take what's left.
Well, and I also took that as she also sees what the rest of them are going to have to give up. Like she knows she's changing Mon Mothma's life too with that, like when that event happens. Like it's one thing to like just get money, but now her friend is going to be killed. So
it's the sacrifice. I'm curious to see where Vel and Cinta's relationship goes, especially just explore Cinta more. Because I feel like Vel has gotten most of the focus across the 2 seasons, and I'd love to see some more Cinta side of things as well. Because she's kind of become like almost like Luthen's enforcer. Like Clea's his assistant in organizing everything. Like she's the one with the comms and the everything, and Cinta's the one you call when you need someone killed, right? So she's a really fascinating character. I'm curious about more of her. Then we didn't talk about it too much besides that first episode. We have Cyril and Daedra and their like sitcom plot that they have. Because that Daedra's in that meeting and she does not, she makes it clear to Major Partagas she does not want this job with Gorman, but Major Partagas like, you guys are like, well, you can't say no, so you're gonna do this essentially.
I thought their story was really good. It just didn't. I think it's going to click with me more once they bring them in more.
Yeah,
like they're just setting them up. They're just getting them ready to.
Yeah, well, their side plot's interesting because it is the bits with them in the last, especially episodes 2 and 3, were really, really funny. Like the like Cyril at his little desk job doing the same introduction he got in the first season, and then they're in their like really sterile apartment, like it doesn't look like a real apartment, like because it's not like a knocking and set design are great. These characters are so weird, like of course they don't live in a normal person's apartment. Like everything's just bright white. They only wear like shades of white and black and gray. Daedra's like picking out her outfits, and even like their apartment's very sterile. Their relationship is very sterile.
I'm curious. I'm more interested in that than I thought I would be.
Right. Well, because it's interesting because it's we saw them in season 1 was he pulled her from being trampled from a crowd, and so how much of it is because he was like obsessed with her, we like in season 1, but from her side of it, because she seemed very off put by him up until that finale in season 1. So it's like how much of it does she feel like she owes him? Does she feel like because he saw her so vulnerable, she's trying to take control back by being in this relationship? Like it's very strange, their whole thing, and I'm so fascinated by everything they have going on. And then we have Edie Karn, his mom, who I've still found her very funny, and it's partially because I did not like Cyril very much in season 1, but I found myself kind of rooting for her a little bit in a lot of their interactions where she tells him what much of a loser he is. But this time I was like, whoa, why are you talking like that? She's crazy.
I thought I felt bad for him.
I don't know if I felt bad for him, but I just thought she was crazy.
I think I like him and her what's her name more after that episode.
Yeah, yeah, I think so. I don't know. I don't know if I can say I like them more. I'm definitely more interested in them,
Well, I think they're
and
not.
I just think they're so
I
weird.
think in the same way as like those bad people at the farming thing. There's it almost shows me that there's people that are just doing it for good. Like I don't feel like either of them are doing it for evil. They're doing
Well, but like then but in the first episode, Daedra's in that meeting talking about how she thinks she has the best strategy for displacing the entire Gorman people so they can
right,
mine them. You know
which
what
is
I mean?
terrible. But what I'm saying is they don't realize they're being terrible because I think
Yeah.
and we've gone through it as a people and ever like if you go back to pick a group of years, things that people thought they were doing for good, then you realize, oh, that's terrible. You know what I mean? Like, I
Yeah.
don't. I'm just saying I don't think they're in it to be the bad guys. Like somewhere they've
Oh
been told,
no.
well, look, these are bad people and they need to be taken care of, and they're
Hmm.
not. They have their alternative facts.
Yeah. Well, and I think their whole arc was like because it's a
Yeah,
sitcom plot. It's mom comes over for dinner. Daedra yells at her. That shot of Cyril laying on the bed was
yeah,
so funny. I started cracking up when he's like on the bed. But their whole you know thing, but and then it's kind of juxtaposed with everyone else really
right,
struggling. And so like this interesting like it makes you appreciate the choices the rebels are making, right? Because I mean, maybe not at this point, they're in too deep, but earlier, any of those characters could have just minded their business and not gotten involved, and they could have the sitcom
right,
plot
right.
too. But they're doing the right thing, and it's harder, and they're struggling for it, they're sacrificing for it, but it's the right thing.
I'm
Um,
hoping those two get enlightened and realize they're the bad guys. That's what I'm hoping.
I don't know if Daedra is gonna go that
I
way. I think Cyril
I
could.
see. I think she has a better chance than him because I think she keeps getting these obstacles put in her way, and she's technically doing everything right.
Yeah.
And so maybe I don't know. I could see him getting it too. I'm just hoping there's a redemption arc. If I had to pick anyone in this, I'd hope it'd be one of those two. I never thought I'd say it until this last episode. I just liked them so much.
Hmm. Yeah, but I'm curious to see, because obviously we're gonna get more of the Gorman stuff that Data's involved in, and I'm curious to see if talking about redemption, like um, if that maybe the Gorman massacre, because that was Mothma's breaking point for speaking out publicly, and she already does speak out publicly too much to the point that she has to leave. Um, but I wonder if that could be Daedra's breaking
Yeah,
point. Is that seeing what she's involved in, or if that could be Cyril's breaking point if he
right.
sees she's involved in it, and if she wants to be in the Empire and he says that's too much and he
Yeah.
leaves.
It'll be neat to see. We'll see some of it next tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow. I'm curious because it's about a year. I assume it's not a year on the dot, and it's all kind of rough
Right, right.
vibes. But based on because Andor season 1 was Rebels season 1 timeline wise. The one we just saw would have been roughly Rebels season
Okay.
2. And obviously, Rebels, these episodes are like just a couple of days within the year. Rebels was like a greater span
Yeah.
of time, so it's not exact. And then Rebels season 3, which is when they pick up Mon Mothma, would be the third arc. But like I said, time they can fudge it a little bit. So I would guess the either the arc tomorrow or the one next week
Will we see Mark
will be
Matten?
when we get the Gorman. We might. They meet him. I think they met him after Secret Cargo. Towards the end, but we did see
Yeah.
Erskine
Yeah.
Samaj, who was Mon Mothma's
Yeah.
attaché in Rebels. We did see him. He was talking to Luthen. not the fun little nod. I think sometimes people, they talk about Andor and they try to diss other Star Wars, and they see Andor just doesn't throw in other characters from other stuff. But Andor
I
does,
think
and they throw in way more obscure characters than
I
anyone,
think Andor
anyone
people
else does.
see what they want to see.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
that's true.
Like if you
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I think a lot of people, and you can like Andor for any reason, but I think a lot of people, they almost like they say Andor is good for the wrong reasons. Like they act like the reason it's good is because it doesn't like it because it's not as doesn't have like the force and the
yeah
aliens, like all this stuff that other Star Wars does. And the reason Andor is good is because of the writing, the care put into the arcs and
right
the stories, not in the characters. Not that it's more realistic or anything like that. What is the care into the characters, and you could have a story about
yep
Jedi with the same care. It could be just as good.
yep
I think but you can like Andor for any
yeah.
reason. Um,
Well, that's a review.
yeah, I think that is. Yeah, I love these episodes. I was enthralled the whole time. Um, I was so because we were at Celebration, we had to leave the Andor panel
Oh,
early to go make our
yeah.
panel, and we left during the Gorman
Oh,
scene,
jeez.
or when they were discussing the meeting, because they only showed the first episode at
Yeah.
the panel. So we left during the scene where they're discussing Gorman on the mountains, and it was they were playing the little propaganda video, and I love that
Yeah.
stuff. I love that kind of stuff in Star Wars. So I was like walking out, like looking behind me, like looking, just walking backwards, trying to see it as we were leaving.
No, you and Lizzy are going to have to do a recap of Celebration.
That's on the list. Like I said, Lizzie's still in
Yeah,
Japan.
well, when she gets back.
It's a bummer. I keep seeing everyone that's still in Japan keeps posting on Instagram. I'm like, I wish it's there. That first American toilet was a rough wake up call. Let me tell you.
Well, that I can say you guys should definitely do a review of Japan. And
yes, I'm very excited to talk about that. And then when we have next Tuesday. Hold on, let me look. We have May the 4th on Sunday, which will be Tales of the Underworld coming out. I don't know if I work yet, but I hope I can go to the Scum and Villainy May the 4th celebration.
You going to go in costume or not?
I don't know. Because if I go to Scum and Villainy, I would take the train, so I don't have to pay for parking. I don't know if I want a Sabine on the train,
Yeah.
Not for Scum and Villainy, maybe for maybe for Celebration, because there is I went to see Avenged 740X today, which is really, really fun. And the 40X theater is right near the LA Convention Center, where they're going to have Celebration.
I don't know. I still think if I was going to Scum and Villainy, I'd go in costume.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm working or not. It depends. Like if I'm off, I might go in costume. But like if I work all day in my little suit,
I understand that.
I might just want to wear something comfortable.
Yeah, I'm going to Galactic Empire concert.
Yeah, we have a big week for Star Wars because then on Tuesday, Revenge of the 6th, we have Andor episode 7 through 9. And we have 2 books coming out. We have High Republic, Valiant Vow, and The Acolyte Wayseeker, plus a bunch of comics. And I'm just looking at my calendar. What else do I got? We got Sal's birthday. Coming up. We got, I forgot to go to Universal Fan Fest nights on May 9th, which I'm excited. I haven't been trying to look at too many spoilers, but I saw the video of the Beholder puppet animatronic that the Henson Creature Shop made. Because the main reason I'm going is because I want to see the D&D stuff. Everything else, like I might, if there's no line, but if I have time, I might go try the Star Trek stuff, might go try the Back to the Future stuff, but I'm mostly there for D&D. I have to eat at the Star Trek, because I think Star Trek is the only restaurant with vegan options. That's nice. Because Star Trek is a vision of the future. They're real ones like that.
Cool.
Over at Star Trek. We have a free comic book day.
I don't know what Star Wars books
are coming out. We have Star Wars. We have Star Wars Fortnite.
Oh yeah, Star Wars Fortnite. Yeah, I'm gonna try to get Mr. Belford to play.
I'm excited. They have, if you played Fortnite recently, if you look in the sky, there's a Death Star.
Nice.
And each day it's been getting closer and closer.
Cool.
It gets bigger and bigger. And they're going to have, someone showed the map, they're going to have, right now there's a samurai castle on the Fortnite map, and they're going to make that Samurai Vader's castle. And then they're going to have a Tatooine POI, which will have sand crawlers that move around and stuff. Then they're going to have a resistance base and a first order base also. And they're going to bring back the Mandalorian's Amban rifle, and it's his jetpack. And they're going to have skins of Grievous and Darth Jar Jar and Palpatine and Poe Dameron and Captain Phasma.
Oh, nice.
And they're going to have a customizable Mandalorian skin.
Very cool.
And they're going to have a skin that's like basically someone dressed as a Wookiee. And they had like I took a video of it, I think. I'll just send it to you. They had like 30 people in a costume of that Fortnite skin. That it wasn't out yet, so like they made it for this, but they at Celebration they had like 30 people dressed as that Fortnite.
Oh, I saw them walk. Yeah,
running around.
I saw that.
Celebration. It was funny.
I saw that.
So I'm excited. Lots of good Star Wars coming.
Well, you'll definitely have to do some Celebration recaps. Whether you and Lizzy do a show or just do some 15-minute ones and throw up on the thing.
Yeah, when Lizzy gets back, we'll do
cool.
One. But yeah, thank you so much for being on the podcast with me.
Yeah, thank you.
I said I got back from Celebration and then was, getting back to work and getting over the post-Celebration, post-Japan blues.
Yep.
But happy to finally record one and to get it recorded before the new episodes come out. I'm really excited for the next couple episodes. I feel like we know the Gorman stuff is coming. I feel like I have no idea what's gonna happen.
Yeah,
off the end of season 1, we knew we had the wedding, and we, but coming here, I have no idea.
Yeah.
What we're gonna do. I'm excited for it. I like not knowing.
Right.
Things. And I think because I know the original plan. That's what they say is they were going to do 5 seasons, 1 each year, and they realized that would take 20 years, so they condensed it into what we have now. And I know that I would love to have Andor forever, so it's a bummer in that sense, as much as I respect their decision. But I, as a Lucasfilm publishing fan, of the comics and the books, I do like this as a choice that lets people sneak in with a book. Maybe after the show's done, we'll get books bridging the gaps between those arcs.
Yeah.
We have the Mask of Fear trilogy. The first one was so good. I'm excited for the rest of them. We have lots of good Star Wars to look forward to. Yeah. Thank you so much, everybody, for listening. Make sure to check us out on StarWarsGeekGirl.com. We are having issues with the blog. I don't know what it was. It's on the website host side of things. What I ended up doing was deleting the blog and then putting it back up, and that worked. So all the posts are still there.
Good.
All the content's still there. So we were getting a couple of messages from people on our contact forum saying they're trying to read a blog article and it was showing up as 404. It should work now. If you run into any more issues, let me know. It does mean old links seem to still get some trouble. But if you're on the blog website, click the page, it's there.
You should probably post that on all your socials too.
Yes, okay. I did. So yeah, I don't know what the issue was, but I fixed it because it was an issue we were having, and it was right before I left for Japan, and I didn't have time to investigate it before I left for Japan. But I got back from Japan, was able to look into it. Should be fixed. If you run into any issues with that, let me know. You can check out our writing. Now, since I'm not having issues with the blog, I'm going to get back to posting. We have a book review of Into the Light, which I'll post probably tomorrow. I meant to post it today because I realized I forgot today was Monday because my work schedule was all weird coming back from Japan. But we'll post that. We have stuff there. Follow us on Twitter, Blue Sky at SW Geek Girl, Instagram at SW Geek Girl, Facebook, Star Wars Geek Girl. For me personally, I'm on Twitter, Blue Skies at Azoika, Instagram and TikTok at Spectre_5. 5 written out, not the number.
They can find me wherever they find podcasts. Inflatable Falcon and Creedcast.
And your Hinton Star
and
Wars
Hinton Star Wars
family.
family on TikTok and Facebook and Instagram too, I think.
Yes, so thank you so much, everybody, for listening.
Thank you for having me.
Lizzy will be back. Yeah, thank you for having me for thinking of the show. Lizzy will be back to discuss episodes 4 through 6. We'll also do a celebration wrap up. Show, like I said, she's still enjoying Japan, posting really, really cool stuff. Follow the Rogue Rebels as well, posting lots of really, really cool stuff from Japan. They visited a giant Gundam today, which I found interesting. But yeah, if you haven't been to Japan, definitely go. I want to go back really badly. I just sent out the package of goodies today. All the plushies I got for Safi. I definitely want to go back at some point. Thanks so much, everybody. Have a great rest of your night or your day, depending when you listen to this. May the force be with you. I was Zoe.
Mike.
May the force be with you, and goodbye.